To be a duelist in Revolutionary Girl Utena is to be someone who sees an issue with the world. They fight because they want to change something fundamental to the world they live in. To return the world to a state they once remember. To change the world into a place they would be more comfortable in. To reach for a world they can barely imagine existing. But by dueling, they can only support the artifice of the world. In a 1997 interview with Animag magazine, Utena head writer Enokido Yoji suggests that perhaps the Shadow Girls are the main show, and everything else just a side attraction. This is because the Shadow Girls are aware that the world they live in is a false construct. During times when their punchlines are delivered by Utena, the punchline is always that Utena is giving the wrong answer, the normal answer. She is giving a mundane answer to a societal allegory. This is a trend with Utena from the very beginning. One of the things that makes her different from the other duelists is that she doesn't have a wish to revolutionize the world. At least, she doesn't think she does. So, how did she become a duelist if she didn't want to revolutionize the world? The first time Utena ever speaks to Anthe is within the dueling arena, when Anthe places the white rose, symbolic of purity, innocence, and the prince, on her chest. Utena breathes in and smells the roses, the same scent she's carried from her childhood. Dios carried no flowers. The only roses Utena could have smelled were the petals in her coffin. Or perhaps the rose of Anthe's coffin. When she was a girl, Utena realized that the world was cruel and unfair. But she could fix this. If she became a prince, she could fix the cruelty and the unfairness of the world. This is why Utena does not seek revolution. She is convinced that by changing herself, the world will change alongside her. Another way of saying this is that Utena thinks that individual action is enough to change society. In my previous Utena video, I ended on a very dramatic note. Reject the revolution of the world. Only achieve the revolution of self, I said. But like most things in Utena, there are elements of falsity to that statement. The first flaw with Utena's conclusion that she needs to change herself to change the world is the ideal that she has decided to change herself into. A prince is someone who rescues damsels, is kind to strangers, and never strays from the path of nobility. Can a prince rescue a damsel if that damsel is a witch? Can they be kind to strangers when they are the one who has estranged them? What is nobility other than the power given to those born into certain families? A falsehood from the start. In the very first episode, Wakaba tells Utena that her mother used to call her an onion princess. Then, in episode 19, A Song for a Fallen Kingdom, Wakaba's childhood friend is back in town. Conscious of their childhood together, he's ready to be her prince, complete with his white rose frame, the way that he so vehemently rejected when they were both younger. Nanami, Mickey, and Jury converse alone, above where the student council meet. I only love one person, Nanami says. That is why our love is eternal. Mickey looks down at his own picture of Anthe, and Jury laughs at both of them. If only you could change the person you love, she says, then you'd be so much happier. Of course, so would she. Probably. Possibly. Within the observatory, Utena talks to Akio while Anthy sits next to her. She's confident that Wakaba is about to embark on an idyllic romance, if only she is willing to speak to her prince. But Akio disagrees. A human's heart is veiled, he says. You may think you can peer into it, but you can't, really. He should take his own words closer to heart. It's normal for the object of your affection to change as you grow up. So Wakaba rejects her onion prince, and it's to the Black Rose Circle for him. Within the elevator, plummeting downwards towards the depths, he weeps into his hands. But while he's weeping, he says some very cruel things. I'm sure her new boyfriend will tarnish her, he says. But that's okay. No matter how she's tarnished, I'll accept her when she comes back to me in the end. Because love will win. Because I love her. Yuck. Many of the men within Revolutionary Girl Utena are obsessed with innocence. No, not innocence. The illusion of innocence. Their delusion of innocence. The construct of innocence. The idea of virginity and the ideal of naivety that goes hand in hand with it. This comes up with Mickey's way of seeing Anthy as an angelic avatar of his childhood, Sayonji's ideal of Anthy as a submissive wife, and with Toga's rejection of Nanami when she shows signs of seeking to understand more about the world. It is all artificial. You truly are a good person, Mikage says. He's the one so invested in an angelic avatar of the past that he's mistaken Anthy for the boy he chased eternity for. But perhaps he is not wrong here, for Wakaba's former prince has come to the bottom of the ladder with a different conclusion than everyone else who dares enter. It is not the world that needs to change, it's me. There's something about him that makes Wakaba not want him. If only he can change to better suit her ideal of a prince, then wouldn't everything be fine? When Mikage attempts to recruit Utena into the Black Rose Circle, she tells him that she doesn't have any problems that need counseling. There is nothing that fills her with bitterness or regret. Her life is good, and she is happy. That night, she goes home to Anthy. She whispers to her in a dawning, horrified understanding, "You can't stop being the Rose Bride, can you?" This is what drives her back to Nemuro Memorial Hall. Tatsuya cries. If only I had power over Wakaba. If only her memories of me were stronger. If only she were more fixated on her past. Then she would not have left me for Sayonji. This is false. If he'd said this, he'd have qualified to be a duelist. He'd have recognized that there was something wrong with the world outside himself. Instead, he clings to the single thing he knows. Wakaba isn't capable of doing better than him. Wakaba's fixation on Sayonji is one of the first things we learn about her, second only to her close friendship and jokingly flirtatious relationship with Utena herself. Her crush on Sayonji seems normal at the time since we have no context, but later episodes reveal that most girls within Otori actually have crushes on Toga. This is perhaps because Wakaba is an I can fix him type, and Toga's entire outward persona denies the idea that there is something that needs to be fixed. Alternatively, Wakaba might see his surly and brooding nature as more interesting than Toga's charm. Maybe she likes having less competition. Whatever the reason, she's made her not like the other girl's choice in the most normal way possible, liking the bad boy. But wait, it's Toga who sleeps around, not Saionji. Doesn't that... Toga's archetype isn't punished for sleeping around. Nanami is the one who faces the consequences of that, when anyone does. If anyone does. The inequality of brother and sister is a consistent motif within Utena, showcased again and again. Utena often sighs longingly when seeing siblings interact. If only I had someone like that, she says. If only I had a family as loving as you do. Saionji is the only other student council member who's an only child. Juri mentions she has an older sister in the penultimate episode. Saionji's lack of a family member present in the show is another demonstration of his lack of narrative weight within the cyclical story that Otori Academy demands. If you can only grow more powerful by asserting your power, then he has no ability to assert power over anyone. Except Wakaba. Except Anthy. At the end of A Fallen Kingdom, we learn something new about Wakaba. She's been hiding Saionji in her dorm, taking care of him while he persists in the barest outskirts of the school. She is special and interesting now because she is related to Saionji, a special and interesting person. Through him, she feels she is more important. More important, definitely, than being Utena's playful friend. Utena's ignorant friend. Utena's normal friend. Many characters in Utena seek power by losing self. If the most powerful man in the school is Akio, then it is more important to be like Akio than it is to find even footing against him. If the goal is to be a prince, then Akio is the archetype. To become like him is to become your dream. When Tsuchiya seeks to rescue Juri from Shiori, he does so through being very, very cruel. To Juri and then to Shiori. He accepts the lies she tells him, he sleeps with her, he publicly breaks up with her, reducing her to tears, and then he dumps her, loudly, publicly, all over again. He does this to prove a point. Maybe Shiori's tears were fake. Maybe she understood that the whole thing was a charade, and she was playing a wrong because she didn't care, and because she knew it would hurt Juri. That is what Tsuchiya thinks. What he doesn't know is clear. Juri's interests run antithetical to desiring a prince. By seeking to pattern himself off of power, off of Akio, he can do nothing but harm her, hurt her. Shiori is not like you, O noble Juri. You deserve someone like me. Someone who is noble, who is capable of self-sacrifice, someone who understands pain. But perhaps the only way he truly differs from Shiori is that he is capable of understanding the harm he inflicts, and thus capable of feeling the weight of guilt alongside his own self-justifications. Or maybe he has that in common with Shiori, too. The false equality of him and Juri, when he is capable of earning Shiori's love and spurns it, the confidence with which he shoves Juri against a wall, the arrogance that he will improve her life by riding alongside her all the way to the dueling arena. Does Juri want a prince? Juri doesn't even want to be a prince. Otori's fairy tales suit her poorly, though she acts more noble than any in the series. A woman forced into the rigidity of the prince's role because she cannot stand to leave Shiori behind. Is that Otori's heart? While in Wakaba's care, Saionji takes on many traditionally feminine roles. This is actually a semi-regular recurring theme for him, as with the apron he was wearing during the episode about Nanami's egg. When he is alone, unwatched except for the ever-attentive series audience, he is a capable cook, a dedicated wood carver. He keeps a diary. His most precious memory is of Toga bandaging his hand. He does this in front of Wakaba because he does not consider her a part of the social hierarchy that he must climb. She is unimportant. She does not speak to anyone, he thinks, who might know him. She is important because she cares for him, but she is unimportant because controlling her will give him no hand up the social ladder. Exerting power over her will not get him closer to Toga, will bring him no closer to the end of the world. She is not on the student council, and she is not a duelist. There is no equality among Otori's students. If she is not a duelist, then she will never matter. Wakaba, of course, is a duelist, a Black Rose duelist who fought using Saionji's own sword, which he yanked from his chest in a fit of rage and sought to bury in Anthe's heart. Black Rose duelists do not fight with their own rings or their own swords. They are corpses animated by malice, losers in the game of life, bitterly grasping for something they can feel slipping through their fingers, unsure what they are losing, but rightfully sure that once it is lost, they will never again have a chance to glimpse the smallest piece of the clockwork that controls their world. The first of the Black Rose duelists is Kane Otori, Akio's 18-year-old fiancée. She is a high school senior, happily preparing to marry the summer after she graduates. She is first introduced as a shadow in the observatorium when Utena walks in on her and Akio. Akio is in a strange state of affairs, marrying this girl because she can give him power. Or maybe taking power from young girls is all he knows, so this should be the most expected thing he could ever do. Akio is defined by his modus operandi, and his modus operandi is the usurpation of power from lonely girls. I read a series of Utena essays where the author suggested that Kane Otori could have been a duelist chosen for the Duel of Revolution, just as Utena was. Maybe that's why none of the other student councils speak of her, even though she still attends the academy. Perhaps she accepted Akio's offer to remain together in the castle in the sky, and now cannot quite remember all she was promised, except that it's not this. Maybe she even has the vaguest, most startling memory of Anthe sliding a blade through her ribs, long faded into nothing but a strange nightmare. Or perhaps that's too much of a stretch. Kane is portrayed as more worldly than Utena, and much more dependent on Akio for affection. Her father is never seen nor shown, and her mother is disdainful, and also sleeping with Akio. He plays them against each other as he attempts to play Kane against Utena, Utena against Anthe, Kane against Anthe. She can have no connections except for him. None of them can. Kane's most personal visual is the poisoned, stabbed apple. Being hand-fed tiny pieces of poison over and over. Snow White's apple, perhaps, but in that case, the roles are reversed. Anthe should have fed the apple to her, and Accio rescued her with true love's kiss. So, perhaps this is the apple Eve ordered Adam, or more exactly, the apple the snake offered Eve. Eat this and he will love you forever. Or until he replaces you with the next young thing. It is not difficult to see Kane as Utena's future. Something is wrong, she tells Mikage, desperately gripping a picture of her, Anthe, and Accio in her hands. Something is wrong. I know it. I need to fix it. I need to kill the Rose Bride. The most obvious false construct of Otori, ignoring that the school itself is a false construct, is the dueling arena. However, this evidence of falsehood works the same way that the Shadow Girls do. Because it is not real, it can follow metaphor with the same strength that it follows the rigid rules of a more mundane reality. Let's put it like this. Anthe's birdcage of the Rose Garden is meant to look the same as the observatorium to show that she never leaves her entrapment. But in episode 38, the truth is revealed. The dueling ground is also the observatorium, making her trapped everywhere she goes. However, this truth was already revealed through Artifice. The Duelists are the flowers she tends in the garden, and thus the birdcage rose garden is inseparable in every way but literal with the dueling grounds and thus with the observatorium. The rose garden is her domain, but she is not safe there, and she cannot stop people from entering. Saionji bothers her, Toga takes dates there, Accio drives a car through the wall when he shows up. One of the first things a rewatch of Utena will tell the careful observer is that Anthe has, seemingly, quite a lot of power. She prunes the roses, pushes people to the point where they will duel for her, and also just has fun using her magic for small pranks against the people that are cruel to her. When the story of the Rose Seal is told, it is not her trapped, but Accio. It is her fault, the story insists. This happened because she was selfish, because she wanted too much. This is the lie at the heart of Otori. The first myth of equality is that of the princesses. All princesses were the same, the Shadow Girls say, winking at the audience. Interchangeable, and the prince loved them all equally. But then he was distraught. There was one who was different. This one could not be a princess. This one could only be a witch. When Utena went to Mikage for the final time, she came on Anthe's behalf, but not because Anthe had spurred her on. She came to ask for help for Anthe. Can you counsel her, Mikage? Can you help her? Can you help her stop being the Rose Bride? She has come to another loser of the duel called Revolution. Mikage is a mirror of Utena, pink hair more washed out than hers, eyes firmly set upon the illusion of the boy he loves. He is, indeed, trying to stop Anthe from being the Rose Bride. He is trying to kill her, even as she grows for him black roses. We are equal, Utena insists to Anthe. We are schoolmates, classmates. We are friends. Yes, Utena Sama, Anthe says. Hi there, I'm Czar, and this is my channel for talking about anime, animation, and storytelling concepts. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See ya!